Hey,
Right. Family environments and their impacts. What is an environment? An environment is your surrounding or the conditions in which a person or a plant lives or operates. That is what the dictionary says an environment is. So what is a family environment? Is that place where we as people, we as families, what our surroundings are like and in which we operate. Are they conducive of making us thrive, or do they help us become the best that we can, or are they inhibiting our success? We are going to talk about this in the next few weeks. So hi everyone, welcome to our 36th Families Grow Together show. My name is Akwa. I am a family early years intervention practitioner. I'm a parenting coach, and I work with children and families in different capacities, especially support those children who are delayed in their language development. Welcome, Nelly.
hello, Aqua. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I am Nelly Kwasungwe, a transformational life coach and social worker. Welcome to the Families Grow Together show number 36. And today we'll be talking about family environment and their impact, part 1. So the idea of family, as we know, is constantly changing from the traditional family settings that existed for so many years. But we are not going into the different kinds of families. What we'll look at today is the family environment. Are they encouraging development? Are they discouraging? We don't know. We will have a bit of conversation today to find out what those are. Our views might be very different from yours. So as we go along, if you have any thoughts, any ideas, please put the comment and we'll talk about it. We can learn from it as well, because this journey in life is we are ever learning, and we are open to learning every single day, because that makes us better people, better individuals. So Aqua, I'll ask you, what in your opinion do you consider a family environment?
Thank you, Nelly. So from the definition of environment, we know that is our surroundings and place where we operate. So a family environment is an environment where everybody, to my opinion, feels that they belong, they feel that they're loved, they feel that they can contribute, they feel that they have rights and responsibilities, and they feel it's an environment in which everyone thrives. That is the ideal for me. So it is everything that is around us, including living and non-living things. So the people, the accommodation in itself, what we eat, how the house looks like, whether it's clean or dirty or messy. So it is just everything that encompasses our environment, the place in which we live and operate on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Yeah, you said quite a lot of things there. Okay. So I did a bit of research on this topic, and I'll just say what I found out from the information I got. So it says that family environment is a distinct interpersonal setting involving the family members of a particular household. Okay. So just from this first sentence, it shows that it varies from varies within families, within cultures, within communities and our society. And again, within that family unit, the interpretation of events varies from one individual to the next. So the family environment includes the social and environmental characteristics of how families create, experience, and respond to the world around them or the world they live in. For instance, moral values, habits, behaviors, dealing with anxiety, stress, toxic situations, and social issues. Commitment to taking responsibilities, whether with the parents, the children, caring for each other, close ties, functioning, conflicts, and social interactions. These are just a few. There are just so many. So in the family environment, each and everyone has responsibilities. This ties in with what we talked about last month about expectations. When families start, when this family unit starts, there are expected roles and responsibilities that is not verbalized to each member of that family. And like we saw last month, this brings a lot of conflict because one person will be thinking, that's your responsibility, but they've never said it. And probably the other person is thinking, that's your responsibility. But because of this lack of communication, everyone knows that that is someone's responsibility, but no one knows whose responsibility is because no one has ever talked about it in that particular unit. We might be coming up with all these responsibilities, expectations from our upbringing because we saw that from our parents, our carers, and those around us that certain people were performing certain roles. But then how does it impact our own family environment? Because if we have moved away from our families of origin, so whether single familyhood, married familyhood, concubine familyhood, whatever kind of family environment you find yourself in, what are the factors that impact? So, Aqua, I'll ask you, what do you think are some of the positive impacts or the positive characteristics of family environment?
Right. So, right. First of all, a positive home environment is the foundation of good brain development for children. Let me just keep that in right there. Because we know that the conditions in which people grow, where children grow, either enables them to thrive or impedes on their development. So for me, a positive home environment would be one in which, first and foremost, there is love, there's care. Starting with the babies, children's needs are being met. And that begins with us as the adults in the family. If we are not taking care of ourselves, we will not be able to meet our children's needs. So we have to, first of all, love ourselves as individuals. If you're in a relationship, love your spouse, respect your spouse, and be mutually giving, and then give to your children. So the first ingredient to a positive family environment would be love. There'll be respect. Obviously, I'll put that obviously there, the expectations that if we're in a family environment, we all have rights and we all have responsibilities. Now, what are our rights? We have a right to be loved, we have a right to be respected, we have a right to shelter, we have a right to food and education and lots of different things. And these rights come now with responsibilities because we cannot only just have rights. So what are the responsibilities that come with the rights that you have? So if it's a parent towards a child, the responsibility as a parent is to provide love, shelter, food, education, and all that stuff for your children. And then as a children, these rights that you have from your parents come with the responsibility of you to honor your parents, respect your parents. Do your chores if you have been allocated chores in the house. So play a part because it's a community. One, in my culture, they say one hand cannot tie a bundle. And as such, even young children can play a part in making the environment a beautiful and loving one to live in. Now, the second thing about the family environment needs to be clean. It needs to be, because if it's not a clean environment, then it is unhealthy. And if it's too cluttered, then it clutters even our mind, because like people say, or experts say, a cluttered house shows how cluttered and confused somebody's mind is, although some people thrive in chaos. So we have, and it's subjective as well. What is clean for one person is not necessarily clean for another person. So there can be extremes. Everything is subjective here. So clean, healthy in the sense that people talk nicely to one another. We're not always in conflict and strife all the time. People are able to communicate openly and freely. Yeah, those are some of the things that I would say a positive home environment should look like, and people affirm one another. So it doesn't mean, affirmation doesn't mean that you just accept everything that somebody does. It means that you encourage them to be the best that they can be. And if they are doing something wrong, you challenge them to come up higher, you hold them accountable. So it is important that we affirm one another and we try and bring out the best in one another. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. You gave so many points in there. And yeah, I'll agree with what you've said. I'll just add a bit more, not to go again. I mean, for the positive environment, it promotes or brings out the best version of someone. It helps in development and well-being. For instance, meeting the basic needs. I know you've talked about that. If we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, we have food, water, warmth, rest, security, safety. Those are the basic human needs. When those needs are met, then it will help children or family members to thrive, and that environment will be a conducive one for each and every member of that family to grow. Again, like I said, and I also repeated, the experiences are subjective, because one incident might happen and each and every member of that household will interpret that same experience differently. It's because of their makeup, their environment, their level of understanding that gives them that different interpretations of the same event. So the family adapts various coping strategies, and the structure revolves around the practical and healthy family values embedded by the parents. So children learn from their parents. Like there's a common saying that children are a carbon print of their parents, because sometimes parents say, this child doesn't look like me, this doesn't behave, their behavior, I don't know where it's coming from, but obviously we know from what psychologists say that children are born just like a blank slate, they know nothing, and it is their environment, and again, it is this family environment that they learn, because children learn from observation. Children start learning from a very young age. Even when they're in the womb, they start learning, because the way the mother, if they're still in the womb, the way the mother responds to the child, it has an impact on that child's temperament. They will start thinking, is she caring? Is she not? Do I know when my needs will be met? And when the child is born, again, they cry when they need probably nappy changing or they're hungry. If the parent is inconsistent with their care, that child is already learning that if they cry, maybe not, the parent will attend, the parent will not attend. So again, that child starts developing the same frame of reference. they start building on that, that if they are reliable, okay, if they are not reliable. So the issue of trust and mistrust comes in. So if you see a child behaving in a way, sometimes we say that child's behavior is strange, but this is my opinion. Probably just take a step back and think, ask your parents where that behavior came from. If you, as the parent to that child, exhibited that kind of behavior. And sometimes you would be surprised that you exhibited it in one way or the other. But as a grown-up now, you want to modify the way you behave. I just find out, and even if a child behaves in a way that is very strange in the family environment, there's always a reason for that child's behavior. Like we said in previous sessions on emotional needs, when children's or when humans' emotional needs are not being met, there is that gap. And because the ego's main function is our survival, they'll come up with coping strategies to keep them safe. And if that individual survives that particular incident, they are more likely to continue to repeat that same behavior, which is reinforcement. And unfortunately, a lot of people repeat that same behavior for days, for weeks, for decades, and they don't even realize because they have repeated it so much so that it becomes automatic. And even when an incident that is not similar to the original incident that they developed that coping strategy happens, they'll just use the same because that's all they have. That's all they have. So then it becomes problematic at some point. And when they are exhibiting those behaviors, most of the times they don't even realize it because it's just automatic. Or some will say, that's how I've always done it. So because they've always done it that way, have to continue. But no, that is the automatic processes. But if you want to change, you need to take a stand still and then try to recall what happened that you are behaving that way or you are using that coping strategy. It needs to be conscious for you to change it because those automatic responses are not helpful anymore. So you will need to be conscious and take conscious decisions to change those behaviors. So, Aqua, do you have anything else to add to that?
Thank you, Nelly. Yes, because you said quite a few things, and especially when it comes to child development. You know me, that's my passion. And when we think about our children and the way they develop, the first 5 years of a child's life is critical, because what they experience during those first 5 years can impact the rest of their life. And like you said, development doesn't start when a child is born, it starts in the womb. And the home environment is critical to how that child is going to come out and what that child experiences in the womb. That's why we say we encourage pregnant moms to be in a positive environment, really as positive as you can make it, because sometimes, especially in cases where there's domestic violence, it really starts escalating with pregnancy, because the person perpetrating sometimes finds that they know that with the coming of a baby, they're not going to get the attention that they did, previously. So it's important that the home environment is conducive for that baby to thrive. And if babies here from gestation 24 weeks, and as such, whatever is going on in the environment, that child can feel, can hear it. They can sense light, they can respond to touch in the womb. And as such, it is very important for us to make the home environment conducive for the baby. And after they're born, like you talked about their needs being met, if the baby's needs are not being met, then they'll have an insecure attachment. And when babies are insecurely attached, it impacts on a lot of different things in their lives, especially like the social interaction, making friends, even their development as such, because they're not sure whether to engage or not to engage. the needs have not been met in a consistent way, and as such, the impact can be devastating if the environment is not right. So yes, let's try our best to give our children the best possible environment that we can, because obviously not everybody is at the same level of education, nobody is at the same level of financial means that they'll provide the right an amazing environment. So let's do the best that we can with what we have and use our free resources around as well, because the community has a lot of free resources that we sometimes neglect to use. So yes, go on.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And just in addition to what you've said is emotional stability. A lot of people struggle with their emotions. And because, let's say, parents struggle with their emotions, sometimes they expect their children to be able to manage their own emotions. But again, the children learn from them how they behave, and the children copy those behaviors and they add their own way of behaving to that. So at the end, it just becomes so chaotic. So, Aqua, how will you describe a negative family environment?
I think we've touched on that already.
No, we were on the positive.
Okay, all right, okay, let's get down to it then. Okay. Negative family environment will be the opposite of what we just described in the beginning. So it will be an environment where obviously it's full of chaos in one way or another, be it chaos in the emotional sense of it, where the children's emotional needs are not being met, or there's strife, there's always quarrels and fights, there may be domestic violence, or it is chaotic in the sense that it is unclean, it is cluttered. You know, sometimes my own house is not that very, sometimes it's very cluttered. And sometimes I need to take time out on a Saturday and just do a spring clean every so often. So I am not going to be sitting here and judging as if my own home environment is the best. But for me, it is enough. It is okay for where I am, because I understand that for me personally, if I am not fine, if I'm tired, if I'm exhausted, or I have a long day, if I come and the whole home is untidy, I don't even look at it. Just go and find my corner and sleep. And then when I'm in the better frame of mind, I tackle the chaos. So each family environment or dynamic is different. So I've got friends who cannot sleep if there's a dirty plate in their sink. And that is their standard that they have put for themselves. So your family environment will be to the standard at which you have set it. Now, negative environment as well is there's no love. The children's people's emotional needs, everybody in the family's emotional needs may not be met. There's a lot of conflict, and the conflicts are not being resolved. They're not being talked about. Lack of communication is a very big thing in a family environment, because if the parents cannot communicate, or if they cannot communicate with their children effectively, then there are a lot of things that come out of it. People make assumptions because you work with what information you have. And if the communication is lacking, then people make judgments and they do things that later on they might regret when they have the full knowledge. So it is important to communicate things as and when they arise, and as often as possible, just to clear the air. Now, and we know that in children, neglect is one of the causes of language delay, because if children are not being spoken to, so that's the communication aspect. You can have children, you can provide everything that they need, you give them food, you buy them 1,000 toys, but you do not talk to these children. That is a negative environment. It may seem outwardly as if it is good, because there's all these material things around, but that child is not being spoken to. So that is negative to their development as well. So there are lots of different things that could cause an environment to be negative. So chaos, lack of love, lack of communication, lack of needs being met, emotional, physical needs being met. Poverty could be a cause of negative home environment as well. And lack of education, mental health, alcohol and drug misuse. All these things can impact negatively on the home environment, because if we are on drugs and on alcohol, we're not available to parents as we should. We don't have the same capacity, and we're not available to our children because we're under the influence. So it's important that we understand all these things and know the impact on each family member, because we impact each and every family member in a different way.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. You have mentioned so many different points. I'll just try to add that if I happen to repeat some of them, just pardon me.
Reinforcement.
So, negative environment causes anguish, suffering, or limits the good functioning of family members. And there are other factors that I'll just try to add. When you criticize a child or any family member, not just a child, if you criticize a family member harshly, sometimes is that you are boiling, as it is commonly said, you are boiling inside. That is the emotion. But then if you don't know how to manage with your emotion, you will spill it out on everyone else in the family. And it will start impacting the relationship with other family members. So it's for you to learn what the triggers to those emotions are and how you can manage them. Because even if you try to suppress those emotions and say you will talk, in your head, you might be thinking that you are speaking gently and calmly, but the person who is listening will be hearing something else. You might be screaming, but inside you, you think that you are speaking softly. So then when this person who is on the receiving end of your harsh comments hits back to you, it will lead to an argument, because you'll say, no, I did not mean to say that, or you just make things up. So a lot of people struggle to manage their emotions, and it is very, very essential in our daily lives. Sometimes in a home environment, our needs are not being met. I talked about that. Sometimes family members are under the influence of drugs, alcohol, and whatever, and they're not emotionally available to other family members. Again, it impacts on the family dynamics and the family relationship. Sometimes you can be the whole family, every family member can be in the household, but everyone is busy doing their own things. They are not emotionally connected. So members of that family might not feel loved, they might not feel compassion. They might show respect in the sense that they have to show their respect, else they'll get in trouble. But over time, when they show that respect, over time, there will be a back, it will come back, because they will say, what is the point of respecting when they know that they have that inner conflict and it's not something that they really want to do, when the other person does not even respect or value them. So when it gets to a point, the family members will start to retaliate. So respect is a two-way. I say about respect, I know Aqua talked about respect before, but I'm talking about respect because especially in African households, when an adult says something, it must be respected and not questioned. So there's so many things that are not spoken about, not questioned. And then that younger adult or that younger family member or the child, they go just to do the things or just to respect, because you are older, you are the parent, you are paying the bills, you are. But then they can't do that forever. And besides that, they will take all those hurt into their adulthood, which is why I just believe now there's a lot of suffering in our communities because people have a lot of unresolved baggages that they have carried along with them, and they don't know how to put down those baggages. And it really affects not just within the household, but even outside, because you can be walking and you even smile to someone and you get told off. Why are you staring at me? Or just smiling, you just want to be nice. So, I mean, people go around with packages anyway. So sometimes you feel that you are being controlled. This one I'll talk in the sense of between the parents and the child and the children. Parents might lack communication, effective communication between them, between the parents, but then they'll use the children, they'll pass on information to the children, to the other parent. That's just all manipulation, because that child's level of understanding is not as advanced as the adult, and the adult will hardly explain the actual thing. They will be saying in favor of themselves and painting the other parent black, which is not good because the child does not even understand adult issues. Keep adult issues to adults and just leave children to be children. So the child might feel that they are being controlled. And again, that will carry into their adulthood. Another factor that can describe negative family environment is experience of verbal, physical, emotional abuse. I talked a bit about that. So sometimes parents, when they have issues, they just sit, say every family member is sat in the living room and they're just throwing these adult words to the other person, and the children are there just like, what is going on? They don't know what is going on. And a lot of parents, this one from my role as a social worker, like when parents have fights and they'll say, oh no, the child was in the bedroom, or the child was not. No, children hear and they feel. And even if, say, there's a leftover of the arguments, you have those emotions boiling, and you go out and you want to probably give food to a child or feed the child, instead of just taking the spoon and putting gently in the child's mouth with that so much energy, you just put it, and you don't know, the spoon might cut the child's mouth. I might have gone to the extreme, but it happens. It happens. So we need to be mindful. And again, not just the impact on the children, but with family members, with, say, the parents. If you do not agree, again, if there's a couple who agree all the time, then I'll be very suspicious, because it'll be someone is the people pleaser who just wants to please and please and please, but within them, they are boiling, they are hurting, but is that fear factor? So arguments are healthy, disagreements are healthy in the sense that when you have a disagreement, you learn about the other person, but it becomes disadvantageous to every member of that family if they don't talk about the disagreement, and then it starts filtering to other members within the family. And there's also dysfunction, which now is just so common. And again, it ties in with some of the points that Aqua said and what I said earlier. So in all, there's trauma. This word trauma, I know a lot of people avoid the word trauma because they say, no, it's just how the family functions. Aqua talked about neglect and abuse. Those are traumatic experiences that children go through But in the eye of a parent, for instance, a parent who is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, they are not emotionally available. They might be physically and emotionally unavailable, or even if they're physically available, they might be emotionally unavailable. And if the child comes, probably just to sit next to them for a cuddle, for a hug, or just to sit and say nothing, because you are emotionally unavailable. Probably you don't even recognize that the child is sat next to you. The child, because of their age and their level of understanding, they will start feel rejected by you. But then when you are sober and the child doesn't come to you, because at that time you want the child to come for a hug or just to talk to the child, and the child starts running away, you start thinking, oh, why do you hate me? Is it the other parent who has told you to be? So where is all of this coming from? And a lot of people use unhealthy coping strategies to deal with their emotions. I'm sure no day passes without me talking about emotions, because I know that fear is the #1 cause of human suffering, and it's down to our emotions. So, Aqua, I don't know if you have something else to add to that. I can see you've been smiling.
Yeah, because it is quite important that we talk about these issues, because it impacts us. It's impacting me right now. A lot of the things that we have spoken about. And when you talk about trauma, it is it is one of the, like you said, it's a word I even avoided using this morning when I was texting somebody, because I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, and we talked about things that I've been going through for the past couple of years, and it brought back all those negative emotions that I felt then. Like, it was as if it was happening again. and I thought, I just texted them this morning and said, look, I'm not going to talk about this thing again. I've drawn a line under it and I've made my decision, and I'm sticking with that decision, irrespective of whoever thinks what. I don't have to explain myself to anybody, and I don't have to justify myself to anybody. People will always say what they want to say, and they'll always believe what they want to believe. And as such, irrespective of what you say, you always have positive and negative feedback. So it doesn't really matter. So long as you've come to that place of acceptance that this is where I am, and I'm content with where I am. So I said, I'm drawing a line under this today, because it really took me back. And I had a really emotional day, so to speak. So it's important that when we find ourselves in an environment, we need to be mindful of the kinds of things that we talk about and how we say them as well, so that the impact is not, even if it's going to be negative, you can mitigate it, you know. So yeah, so you said a lot of things that are quite important, and we need to be aware of our emotions. We need to recognize the emotions as well, because sometimes we do not recognize what these emotions are. We feel the knot in our stomach, we feel the nervous energy or anger coming up, and you do not know where it's coming from. And as such, if you do not know where it's coming from, you're not going to be able to solve the root cause of it. So recognizing what that emotion is, recognizing the source of that emotion, and seeing what you need to deal with and how to deal with that emotion is very important. Even if you don't know how to deal with it, when you already know the source, somehow, somewhere, the solution is going to come, because you've recognized that there is something here. And if we sit and reflect on what it is, then we are able to manage it a bit better. So yes, there are lots of things that can impact negatively in the home environment, and that availability of us as parents. I was just reflecting on my relationship with my children as well, because sometimes you think that, okay, your children are fine, but then when you sit and when we talk about these things and you think, okay, how much time do I spend with them one-to-one? How much time do I spend giving them cuddles? How much time do I spend giving them, affirming them, as you know? So it is something for us to reflect on, because like we said, no family environment is ideal. We make the best of the environment in which we are, if we're able to, and we should not stop learning, because learning is the key. You can be in an environment, but because of ignorance, you think that your environment is the best, whereas it may need adjusting. So I'll go back to the setting of when we're going to support children with speech and language delay, and you come into the home and there are lots of toys available. It's like the home is a nursery setting in itself, and the toys everywhere. And you say, look, it is great that you have these beautiful, expensive toys, but it's not a conducive environment for your child who is struggling with the language development. You want them to be able to focus. But because there's so many things around, that child will be flitting from one thing to another, so stimulating. And, so it is important that we learn about what that environment should look like, and we do our best to provide the right environment for our families to thrive in.
Yeah, thank you so much, Aqua, for that. You've added a lot more points.
We'll never finish, don't worry.
No, we'll never finish. We talked about what I picked up on what you said. Awareness is very, very important. Awareness, because a lot of us live our lives on autopilot, which means as we grow up, we do things, we just continue to do the things, and we don't even take time to question why we are still behaving the way we are behaving. Because you see, some adults, proper adults, still behaving.
What do you mean by proper adults?
The proper came up, I was thinking of age, because I mean, from 25 years upwards, or let me say from 30 years onwards, those are, you see, adults, but then they are behaving like high school children. And you're thinking, you look a grown-up, but mentally, you are not. So again, is to take time to stop yourself and ask yourself why you are still behaving the way you are behaving. Is that behavior a reflection of who you are, who you present to be, who you want to be? When you start questioning yourself, you realize that there are certain behaviors that you need to amend. No one needs to tell you to change. It's you to recognize that way, the way you are behaving doesn't reflect the person you are or the person you want to be. And then make that change. Because I find it funny. People do whatever they do, but for me, I just think that as an adult, you want to have a drink in your home and you are hiding before having the drink. Sometimes to me, I don't understand it. That how will you be in your own home and you are hiding to have a drink? If you know it, you first of all know that it is wrong, which is why you are hiding in the first place. Now, why do you have to continue that way? So there are many other things, but this is the one that came to mind. So any behavior, take your time and bring it to consciousness. Get that awareness of why you are behaving the way you are behaving. Is it supporting your growth? Is it limiting your growth? Then make a decision on what you want to do, because no one is going to do it for you. You are the only one to deal with your situation. If you want to change it, good and fine. If you don't want to change it, good and fine. And know that it impacts all those around you, your family members, it impacts them. And if it's a negative behavior that you are bringing, it impacts the family environment and family members. Okay, thank you so much for that, Aqua. So, how family members relate to each other is crucial. I know we've talked a bit on this, but I'll just ask you, how do family members, this one now we'll talk both the positive environment and a negative environment. So let's start with the positive environment. How would family members talk to each other in a positive family environment?
Okay, thank you for that, Nelly. That is what I like, the positive one. Whether it's what I'm living, it's another story altogether. But in a positive family environment, people will be loving to one another. People will be courteous. People will be respectful towards one another. People will prefer the other's well-being, even to their own. So they'll make sacrifices. They'll be more giving, and they'll be more loving and making sure that everybody else's needs are met. And if in that environment, everybody's looking out for one another, then everybody else's needs are being met. So nobody is trying to say, okay, I'm gonna hog all this food because tomorrow I may not have it anymore, or I'm gonna take all mom's time because if I don't capture her in helping me doing only my own homework, then the other person is gonna take her away from me. So it's important for us as individuals in the family environment to make ourselves available, because there is presence and there's availability. There is presence and there's interaction, positive interaction, because it's not even about the length of time that you spend with your family members. It's about the quality of the time that you share together. You may be a working parent, working 9 to 5 or even longer, 12-hour shift, like nurses and doctors who do shift work, and they come and they're tired. But if you have only that 1 hour to interact with the child, make it a positive 1 hour so that you're making memories in those hours. I beg my children to play games these days. Nobody wants to play games because they have their own interests as well. And as such, we have to also understand that just because our children have different interests doesn't mean that they don't care about us or that they don't love us. Because sometimes as parents, we may look at that as like rejection. If we're not secure in ourselves, if we're not secure in who we are as people and as parents, we may take it as rejection. We may take it like, okay, you don't want to spend time with me, it's just you don't like me. No, that is coming from a place of lack. So when we are confident in who we are as a parent, as an individual first anyway, we relate with one another in a more positive way. And we need to be secure enough in ourselves to be able to accept critique. Not criticism. We tend to criticize more in most environments, but we need to learn how to critique things in a positive manner. So it's important that we learn to not take everything personal. In the beginning, when my kids used to say, oh, this food is rubbish, it used to happen because you've taken all your time to cook, you've put on your love and your care and attention to cook this food, and you're like, I don't like it, it's not nice. They've not even tasted it, but it's not nice. I'm like, taste it, you have to eat it. I've spent all this time to cook this food. You have to eat it and you have to finish it. Previously, when I didn't know much about, about anything, I'll do that. But as I grew, as I learned, as I developed, I realized that, look, even as adults, there are certain things that we do not like, that we see and we just say no to without even trying to experience it first. And so what is the difference between me as an adult making that judgment and my child making that judgment on that food as well? So sometimes we think that because children are small, it doesn't mean that they don't have a mind of their own, that they cannot think for themselves. We need to respect each other into a level that we allow ourselves to be individuals, to learn to adapt to people as they are. Anyway, nobody can change another person anyway. And one thing that I learned from Dean Graziosi was that he's 14-year-old. He could be considered as pedantic, as in he is very specific about things. And so if the time is 8:27, he's not, and you say it's 8:30, he's gonna like, no, it's 8:27. And so he said that it used to aggravate him, especially when they were in company, and he would correct him like that. And then they went on holiday and he realized that, but this child has been like this for 14 years of his life, and this is how he is. Is it that I am responding negatively? Is there something in me that is this child is aggravating me. And so he had to reframe it and realize that the thing was about him, not the child, because the child hasn't changed. The child has been consistent throughout their lives, being the same way. And when I heard that story, it helped me a lot, because each and every one of my children are different and they react to things differently. And as such, I have to adapt as well to each individual child's ways of communication, the way that they behave and the way that they react to different things. So it's important that we are open to learning. I'll always come back to that. Let us be open to learning and picking up positive things that can change things for us in our own lives. Because if we do not learn and we don't try new things, we'll continue in our rut, doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome, which will never come. So yeah, so when we relate positively, everyone in the environment thrives. So we need to bring out the best in one another and to help one another thrive as individuals and as a family unit.
That's very, very important. Thank you so much, Akwa. And you've said quite a lot. What I'll add is, when we talk about bringing the best in people or being positive, it doesn't mean that challenges will not exist. Challenges will be there, but you look at the one little good thing from that challenge. Let's say, for instance, you fail in a test. It's a test. Yes, you failed. That doesn't mean that you are a failure. It's just a test. Yeah, you failed. So what? You are not happy about the results because probably you think of how your teacher, your friends, your parents will react or respond to you. But then, what is that failure? What are you learning from that failure? There's always room for improvement. So if you fail at something, it doesn't mean that you are a failure. Always look for that one small thing and work on how you can improve on it, because it is you as a person. And a lot of times people take on or project their insecurities onto others. Then they present to be so needy. They want to be approved. They fear rejection and all those kinds of things. So if you are aware of who you are, work, like Akwa says, learn. All this learning that we do, it goes back to one thing. You are learning about yourself. So if you are learning all the stuff out there and forgetting to learn about yourself, then you'll be learning twice, because you will have to come back, learn about yourself, which is why personal development is very, very important. Because if you develop yourself as a person, you have all the capabilities of all the resources within you. You can go into the fields that you are passionate about. But if you learn only about those fields that you are passionate about and you don't have the person skills, how will you execute whatever you've learned? So let's be open to learn and learn. So, I mean, I'm conscious of the time, Akwa, and I will just go to the last. It was not the last question on my list, but the last as per this discussion, because this series will continue. So we'll take it into next week. So it will be that same questions: how do family members talk to each other in a negative environment?
So how we relate to each other negatively. Now, there are lots of right, okay. One, respect. That is the biggest key. That's one of the biggest things in an environment that is negative. Disrespect, not respecting people's opinions. We're allowed to have opinions even if we disagree, but give that person the chance to express themselves. Don't invalidate, especially their emotions, because sometimes in an environment, because something is not important to you, we tend to care less about it. Just because you do not care about that thing or it doesn't impact you in the same way doesn't mean that it's not important to that person who likes it or on who is talking about it. So it's important to respect one another. It's important to respect and validate each other's emotions. Yes, you may not understand it, but it is what the person is feeling at that time. So let's listen to understand and not necessarily to respond, because we tend to do a lot of responding. Somebody is talking, you're not listening, but you're thinking about what you're about to say next, just to counteract their point. So especially when there's conflict, it is important that we listen to understand and not necessarily to respond. Another negative thing that comes with responsibilities. Now we have rights, food is provided, needs are met, the rest, we are all under responsibility, especially when it comes to children towards the parents and house chores. Now, if you have been given your own house chores, we all have responsibilities. For example, in my house, my responsibility is to provide food, make sure that the kids are fed and stuff like that. And so I do my part to make sure that there is food in the house all the time. Their responsibility is to wash the dishes. Each person has a day to wash the dishes. And when I've done my part and I come, and if not done your part, it's irritating. It builds up strife. And I can shout at them, which now sours the environment or the atmosphere. So it is important that we take our rights and our responsibilities seriously. Not take yourself too serious. Even as a parent, don't take yourself too serious. It's not the end of the world. But there has to be boundaries and there has to be discipline. And as such, when these things are trespassed or broken, then there is reparation to be done. So one thing is an environment that's negative is when people do not take their responsibility seriously and they will not accept or acknowledge their mistakes or apologize for what they have done wrong. So they sweep things under the carpet. They do not want to face the consequences of their actions. They don't want to even acknowledge that they've done something wrong. That makes the environment negative. And so sometimes the conflict then builds and becomes something that it shouldn't have been, just because of lack of communication. So lack of communication makes for a very negative environment. So I think moral values, principles, if they don't align, it causes negative conflicts. But it's all down to communication, really. Lack of communication is one of the biggest things that makes the environment negative. So I think I'm going to end with those two. Otherwise, I'll go on and on and on.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was so many points you said there. But what I want to add is, you talked about responsibilities and the roles and responsibilities. So taking on from last week, from last month, there are expectations, but then were those expectations communicated? So each member of that family know their roles and their responsibilities. Again, communication, that's a big question. I'm just saying this, I'm asking you to answer.
No, that's fine. No, it's something that is critical, yeah.
Yeah, it's critical. And again, I always go back to African families. We always say, when a mom or a dad says something, it is final. The children just have to do it. But it doesn't work that way, because that's why sometimes children retaliate, because they don't even understand why they need to do that.
They rebel.
So they rebel. They rebel when it gets to a certain, because, okay, I'll just share a little story here. So when I was younger, when we were growing up, my brother, he was around 13, 14, at that time, at teenage age, he was getting, I don't know the word to use, but it was not with me, with my mom. So he used to get in trouble a lot. So my mom used to smack him. So one day, my mom slapped him, and he stood, looked at my mom, and he said, "Mommy, slap me again." All of us were in the kitchen, and I could see my mom. She turned around, and then my brother went closer to her and said, "Mommy, slap me again."
I'll give you another dirty one.
And since then, my mom never slapped him. I benefited because I was always doing the silly mistakes, and my mom would just, before she even opens her mouth, she would just give me a
backhand.
Since that day, I benefited because my mom did not even try. So in that example, my brother took it for so long, and then he could only take it that much. And it got to that point where he had to rebel and said, I've had enough, I can't take it anymore. And it helped him and it helped me too. So those are the kind of things. Okay. So Aqua, thank you so much. I'm very conscious of time. And do you have any last words before we finish? But just before you answer that, this month we'll be talking about the family environment. So this conversation will continue next week on the communication side of things. So.
Right, okay. Thank you, Nelly. This has been interesting. I think there are lots of people who would benefit from this discussion and who would probably like to contribute towards this discussion. And as such, please, when you listen, maybe put your comments in the comment box and we can pick them up in the next session, or send us a direct message so that we can share your views with the population out there, because we do not have the monopoly of knowledge. We can only share from what we know, and we only know so much. And as such, we would like to learn from you guys as well. So this is an important topic for me, especially as I see it on a daily basis as I work with children and families. So what we learn, we share at work as well. And what we learn from work, we bring to you as well. So it's not like it is just our personal experiences. Some of these things that we've talked about is what we have read, what we have experienced at work, and from what people have shared with us. So we'd just like everybody to join in the conversation. Let's learn from one another. Hand in hand, we grow.
Oh, yes, that is it. Okay, so thank you so much. And yeah, like Aqua said, we are here. We are willing to talk to you. We are willing for you. We have an open space for you to join us, because life is all about learning. We learn to become the better version of ourselves. I can learn from you. You can learn from me. We might not learn from each other. We might learn from each other. So it's just put out the information in there. And this, we are not coming here to say we are experts, but each and every one of us is an expert in our lived experiences, because my experiences, Aqua's experiences, your experiences, is only you who can explain it the best, because you are experiencing it and you attach the emotions to the events and to the experiences. So that's why you, me, are experts in our lived experiences. So any announcement, any last thing before we finish?
Right, so our next project that's coming up will be our half holiday club. So holidays, activities for food for children in Rochdale. We're open to, we have 10 spaces that can be booked from outside of Rochdale Borough. So if you want your child to attend our holiday club and you do not live in Rochdale, then you'll have to pay £10 for each session that you come. And we're doing it for a week, 5 days. So that'll be £50 for your child per child. And so join us on the second week of August. So that will be from the 7th to the 11th of August. And our activity is at Hebron Church. And so we're going to put out leaflets and links for you to join. So yeah.
Okay. I just want to say our other project, Explore Your Neighborhood, that has been fantastic.
Oh yes, oh yes.
We went for, by the way, this event takes place every first Saturday of the month, and we explored different amazing places within Greater Manchester. So for the month of July, we went to the Ogden Reservoir in Rochdale, and it was amazing. If you want to see some of the photos we collected from there, it's on our website, and it's also on our Facebook page. So join us, register, because if you don't register, you won't have a space to join us. We take responsibility for those who are there. We want to know who is going. It's not just open to everyone. That's why you need to register. So go on our website and under events, you'll see it there. Thank you.
Wait, I want to just say that one of the ladies who came spread the word. Okay, so I went to one of the families that I work with, and the mom said, "Oh, I was with this person, and they said that they've been with you, and you've gone out, and you had fun in going around on the reservoir, and that people should come outside. Why parents just don't want to go to this place?" She was so excited. So that was the feedback that another person was giving me as to what somebody had told them about our walk around Ogden Reservoir. So come and join us. It's fun. Fresh air will do you good. There is something about the fresh air up in the hills. It's different from what you get in the town and city. So come and join us and let's just enjoy.
Yeah, and just to add to that, and the wind almost blew me away.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Please come join us.
Okay, thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you next week. So have a blessed rest of your day. Take care.
And week. Bye.
Bye. Bye.